Today's guest on Faces of Florence, Dr. Lesley Kirby. With keen insight and the heart of a servant, Dr. Kirby is constantly looking for new and fun ways to spread love and light to the people of Florence.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad you found us. Radio Free is a 24-hour Christian mixed radio station broadcasting right here out of Florence, South Carolina. So when you're driving around town, remember to tune it in to 92.5. And if you're outside of the Florence area, you can listen 24 hours a day at radiofree.cc.
Dr. Lesley Kirby, welcome to Radio Free.
Thank you.
We have been friends for a while.
Yes.
We've been partners in crime on some
we
projects coming up in the past year, and more to come, I'm sure. But I just wanted to have you come by and be a part of the Faces of Florence series, because to me, you are like the perfect example of an advocate for Florence.
Thank you.
These interviews basically are designed to kind of shine a light on people who love this city and who find it just within them to want to serve their neighbors. And what the saying we always say here is that we're called to love our neighbors. Can't love your neighbor if you don't know who they are. So we're going to introduce Florence to you here.
Okay.
Now, lots of people know who you are already. You have been a shaker and a mover for a long time, and we're going to talk about some of that here in a minute.
Is that a good thing?
I think it's a fantastic thing, honestly.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit about, I interviewed you a couple years ago, I guess, to kind of get a little bit of your story. So let's start there. Let's just give us a little bit of a backstory. Where were you born and raised, and how did you get to Florence?
I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. Well, I was born in Syracuse. I was actually raised the majority of my elementary school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My dad was the professional NBA basketball coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. And after I graduated from Syracuse University, I found my first job as an audiologist here in Florence, South Carolina. That was 30 years ago. I was actually looking for a position down in Florida. That's where my parents had moved to. Couldn't find one that I really liked. So one popped open here in Florence, and I said, well, I'm halfway to Florida, so I'll take a little stand there, and that was 30 years ago.
So you didn't know anything about Florence? There was just a job opening?
No. It was.
That?
I had interviewed with a company. They're now no longer here, but it was 4 ear, nose, and throat doctors called PD, ear, nose, and throat.
Okay.
And upstate New York, you're like, PD, is that pediatrics? We
Right,
didn't know what
yeah.
PD was, right?
Yeah, right?
It was kind of strange at first. Yeah, so that's how I got my first job. And then 10 years after working at that particular organization, I opened up my private practice 20 years ago.
Which is lifetime hearing. And it's such a beautiful, to me, a concept. It's not just a doctor's office. It seems like there's a bigger thing there. So let's talk about that for a second. What's the name about?
Well, when I had to come up with a name for my practice, it came to me. God is so good, and He just directed every single step. He gave me the name because I really didn't put much thought into it. My husband said, "What are you going to call your practice?" And I said, "Lifetime Hearing Services." And he says, "Why do you want to call it that?" Because I wanted to work with children all the way up through the geriatric population. So I wanted to work with children, the whole lifespan and somebody's lifetime when it comes to their sense of hearing. And that's what it has been since day one.
Wow. Lifetime Hearing Services. It's got a good ring to it as well. Let's talk a little bit about audiology itself. What drew you to that?
I actually was not drawn to it initially. I was initially going to be a teacher of the deaf. And when I got to be a junior in my undergraduate studies at Syracuse University, they disbanded or got rid of the graduate program for deaf education. So I was left with nothing. So my guidance counselor actually said, you know what, we've got something that's a little similar. It has to do with the hearing impaired. Why don't you take an introductory course, see if it kind of tickles your fancy, and take it from there. And I fell in love with it. So that's how I ended up in audiology. It wasn't my first pick, but it was what was granted me, and I'm very, very thankful.
Your first pick had to do with hearing, though.
Yes, it did.
What's the connection there?
My uncle was a teacher of the deaf, and it always, he was the basketball coach for the deaf team, and I used to go watch the basketball games, and it always interested me, the sign language and the fingers and the communication and how these boys in the basketball game would be able to listen and understand what the referees were talking about when they couldn't hear them. So that is what really started me with the whole interest of hearing impairment. And so I kind of wanted to follow in my uncle's footsteps, years later, I'm a doctor of audiology.
And you've been doing that here in Florence for 20 years now?
20 years.
Wow.
This past June was our 20th anniversary in private practice.
Well, that is exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
One of the things that drew me to you for this particular thing was you seem to have a real fire in the belly for helping others. We talked about that a little bit a minute ago, but there's something within you. Even the fact that you pursued audiology right out of the gate there's something inside of you that is a true servant, and I just appreciate that so much. And I'd like to hear a little bit about that. Maybe what do you think that is, where that comes from, and why it's so important for you to serve others? Because it's a business,
Yeah.
but there's so much of a service element in this
There
thing.
is.
Especially if you know you and what you do outside of the business, you're just all about your fellow man. It's amazing.
I think that it stems from my faith in God. We are definitely a Christian-oriented business. I make no qualms about that. I'm very open about that. And I know that the business is a blessing, and what we are able to provide to our community is a blessing as well. And I know that God always loves a giver.
Yeah.
And that you can never outgive God. And I have learned that from day one with my private practice. So the more that I find myself giving and outpouring into the community, the more that comes back in blessings, and not monetarily. It might be some other kind of thing that you didn't even think you needed shows up, type of thing. So I just have always had a giving spirit. I have never been one that has liked to receive presents. Christmas, I love to give.
Yeah,
Ask my staff. I give, and we take trips and do all kinds of fun stuff together. But I've always, even since a little girl, been uncomfortable with receiving gifts. So I think that God has always instilled in me a giving spirit. And so I have made sure that I instill that into my practice as a business owner as well.
What does that look like? How do you instill that into your practice?
I do many charity events, as you know, because you have helped advertise and get the word out. A lot of Grammy Award-winning concerts through my church, Palmetto Street Church of God, where we have the proceeds go to charity. For example, for our 20th anniversary this year, before the pandemic happened, I had a whole huge vision of what our 20th giving anniversary was going to look like. And I had each of my staff members choose their favorite local charity. And we were going to spend all year raising money for each of these charities. Because charities are hurting right now.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's hurting, but charities are hurting as well. And so I had all these plans, and then boom, COVID struck, everything was locked down, and I had a choice to make. Do we just stop with that vision, or do we push forward? And I had some little talks with God, and he just instilled in my heart, you got to push through. You have to be a light. You have to push through. And we pushed through, and looking back on it, Kevin, I have no idea how we put those 3 concerts together, with David Phelps being a weekend concert, 2 concerts, and Guy Penrod, and we were able to stream them. And looking back, during that time period, it had to have been God leading me, because there were so many things that had to be looked at and analyzed and strategized and changed, that it was not me that did that, because to be honest with you, I don't remember doing half of it. But, all in all, we pushed through, and at the end of this year, we actually raised $25,000 for our local charities. And that's 6 ladies in the middle of a pandemic, when most businesses were shut down, said they couldn't conduct business, can't do it. Somehow my team found a way to push through and get almost $25,000.
That is remarkable.
Awesome.
Remarkable.
God is so good. God is so good.
Let's give a shout out to your team right now. Who are
They're
these 6
awesome.
ladies?
Okay, so I have my hearing instrument specialist, Trish Leviner and Kim Borelli. I have my business director, Wendy Bird. I have patient care coordinators, Reagan Roberts and Jerry Turner. And I have, last but not least, is Brittany Pearson, who is a temporary hearing instrument specialist and my assistant. And these ladies give their heart and soul. So they may have thought I was crazy at times when people told me to stop with the concerts, shut down, don't do this. But I said, no, I just feel in my heart that we need to push through. And it was needed. These concerts were needed. Our community needed to listen to encouragement and hope and light. And both David Phelps and Guy Penrod provided that for our communities.
Yeah, they really did. And
you were there.
You
were there for David.
Special concerts. And what a performance, again, in the midst of all this craziness.
And both of them, it was their very first performance after their lockdowns.
Yeah.
So that was kind of special for Florence to be able to host both of them at their initial kickoff concerts after the lockdowns. They were so appreciative.
That is so cool.
Appreciative of having the opportunity to be able to sing in front of people.
Right. To be able to step out.
The things that we just totally would normally take for granted, right? All of a sudden, it's a huge event for them to be able to have that opportunity again.
All right, so those concerts were in conjunction with Lifetime.
Yes.
But you also, just independently, have some other projects going on as well. Let's dig into that a little bit.
This brain, it just never shuts off, Kevin. I'm sure my staff wishes that it would, but it just keeps going. So, again, that giving spirit. What can we do to lift people up? What can we do to think outside of the box and keep going? Keep pushing through. What can we do? So, COVID hit. Businesses were locked down. And I got together, had an idea, brainstormed, got together with a friend of mine who's in a business networking group with me. And she's a local florist in downtown Florence, Angela Pecca. And I said, Angela, I just feel like I want to do something incredibly special, something very unique for small business owners, for our hometown business owners in Florence. What I would like to do is that once a week during this lockdown, is when everything's kind of slow, is choose 2 businesses every week, and let's go and surprise them and deliver them one of your gorgeous flower arrangements and celebrate them and lift them up and just say, we're in this together, we're supporting you. I would do a little Facebook interview on my iPhone and put it out on Facebook so everybody could see everybody getting their flowers and everything. And that thing is taken off. We still do it now. We don't do it every week, but we do it once a month. And we have just met so many neat business owners that otherwise I might not still not know.
Yeah.
It's getting out there and getting to know them and seeing what's out in Florence is tremendous because our hometown businesses are fabulous.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of us don't know what's available. So that's our second step in all of this is that we're going to start focusing on these hometown businesses and being a light for them and helping them educate the community as to what they do, where they're at, how we can reach them. Because, Kevin, I just feel that at this particular point in time, with the political climate that's going on and the pandemic is still hanging around, that if small hometown businesses don't support one another, we're not going to be around for too long. So we really need to lift each other up.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that, we talked a little bit before we got on the air here, but with social media and just the way the world is working right now, it can be real outward focused outside of our community real easy. Before you know it, you're just your whole world is outside, and how there's so many great special things right here.
Right.
We just got to shine a light on them and then encourage people to step in that direction, Like you said right before we got on the air, you said, before you push that buy on Amazon button. Look around and say, who here in town has that?
Who here can I help that has a hometown business that offers that particular item where I can help that business owner's child go to school, or I can help that business owner's children get some new clothing if they need it. So giving back to your community in keeping that retail environment going within our little area that we have here, I think is going to be so very important moving forward. And then another thing that we did, I don't know if you're even aware of this, but I have an electronic billboard through Adams Outdoor.
Okay.
And one of the billboards, I am able to go ahead and change the message that I want on it. So every 4 days during the pandemic, I was changing the message to an encouraging message. So everybody that was driving by, everybody that went out to Walmart on David McLeod Boulevard would pass it. But I would also go out and take pictures of the billboard and post them on Facebook. So it was all encouraging because I was getting so tired of watching all the advertising with the masks on. Mm-hmm. And I said, something has got to change. And I've got to be a light in all of this. And I have the means to do it. So that's what I did. And I still have that billboard up that changes out. And there's an encouraging message on there for the community as they're driving through town.
And it's on David McLeod going out?
It used to be on David McLeod. It changes every 3 months. So right now I'm at 5 points.
Okay.
And I'm going off over into Hoffmeyer Drive the end of this month. So
cool.
It changes location every 3 months.
But
again, just again, thinking outside the box,
Yep.
How can a small business owner give back to the community? What does our community need at this point in time? Because it changes all the time, you know? And how can we be a light in the darkness? And that's what it's all about.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you always, like I said, you're such an advocate and you're very proactive. Did you ever feel any pushback from people? Because you are a go-getter. You are going to, I feel like you're the kind of person that doesn't take no for an answer very easily, which is a good thing. But I wonder that, because, I mean, what you are preaching basically is the need to take care of your neighbors. And that's Jesus' message. That's not Lesley Kirby's message.
Right.
But not everybody wants to hear that message.
Yeah. Billboards, I have gotten nothing but praise from the billboards. I share those billboards on Facebook in all different groups. And my personal page as well as my business page have not gotten one. It's been nothing but encouraging. Even the concerts that we put on, I was flabbergasted because I thought I was going to have a lot of pushback. And this community, I might have had one or two people say something, but not to any large extent. Yeah. Once they understood the precautions and the safety and everything that went into putting on those concerts with social distancing and masks and hand sanitizers and everything, once they understood the precautions that were taken into place, they were fine. But surprisingly, I haven't gotten a lot of pushback.
That's good.
But if I do, I'm ready.
Yeah. This I know. But you're just built for that. I watched you at these concerts communicating from the stage this beautiful dance between, like, hey, if you're concerned about your safety here, like, we've taken these precautions, we want you to know. And then if you're not, just be kind to your neighbor, you know, just pull. And you were able to say it in such a way that I felt like the whole place just had this peace over it. It was wonderful. So keep that up, you know.
I had, when people were leaving those concerts, they were crying, literally crying, real tears, thanking me for pushing through and putting those concerts on because their souls needed it.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like we have been beaten down so hard from all different angles and in so many different ways that couple of hours was a time for them to escape and just be in God's presence. And it really made a difference. And that alone meant the world to me. Just people thanking me on their way out. I'm going to cry. See, I knew you were going to make me do this. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does.
That's what blesses me.
Yeah. And your heart is so big and it's wonderful. Let's switch gears then and let's talk a little bit about the future. What do you see? What's Dr. Lesley Kirby's projects coming up here? Obviously, more of the small business stuff. You going to do some more concerts? Is that more of an anniversary thing, maybe?
My
or-
staff would kill me if I said yes.
Burned all that out, huh?
I don't see any concerts necessarily coming up, like ticketed concerts.
Yeah.
Just because it's so difficult
Yeah.
and it's so time consuming to
Yeah.
put together something big like that.
Right.
You know, dealing with the agents and contracts and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm really going to be spending some time over this next year really building the foundation of Lifetime Hearing Services. We have to go into a new software system, and we have to do a lot of different internal changes. So this next year to 2 years is really going to be focused on the business and our 4 locations. But never count me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. We're going to continue with our Wonderful Wednesdays. I'll continue with the billboard encouragement. And building that infrastructure for our hometown businesses, I think is so important for Florence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of small businesses in Florence, Lifetime Hearing falls in that category. And you said you have 4 locations?
Yes.
Where are those?
Florence is our hub,
Okay.
so that's our main one. Hartsville and Cheraw and Camden. So those are our 4 main locations right now. In the future, we may build another office in Lake City. Down the road when I have another licensed practitioner to work over there, because there's only so much time in a day, and I can only get to so many cities in one day.
And you're bouncing around between all those locations?
I work in Florence 3 days a week. 1 day a week I'm in Hartsville, and 1 day a week I'm in Camden. And then my associates work in the other offices, the Cheraw office, and the days that I'm not at the other offices, they fill in. So we have it going on. We have it going, but it's very structured. And everybody knows where they're supposed to be and everything, so it works out real well.
So the future is question marks, right? We don't know what's coming up. We're going to spend some
But
time.
we know that God
digging in.
has us in His hands.
There you go.
You know, and that I was talking to my practice administrator today, talking about this political climate and the inauguration and everything that's coming up and how much division there is in our country. But I said, as a Christian, we know that this world is temporary.
Yeah.
All this stuff isn't going to matter one bit when we leave this temporary world and head to God's world, head to heaven. And we have to keep that in mind. You know, this is temporary. We need to do the best that we can here. We need to spread His word, and we need to be a light in the darkness, and take it for what it is. And then when our time is up, no matter when that time is, who knows? You know, our days are numbered. We don't know what those numbers are. But I want to know that when I leave, that I have done the best that I can.
Well, you it's obvious to the rest of us, that's for sure, that you are definitely doing the best that you can. Well, let's tell me on that note about building a worldview that says I'm not of this world. You know, I'm going to try to keep my eyes on Jesus.
On the prize.
What kind of resources do you utilize in your own life to help you stay in that mindset?
Well, obviously, I go to church. I love going to church with Pastor Neil at Palmetto Street Church of God. My devotions in the morning. I use a Bible app called Dwell. I love to listen to Dwell, especially when I'm taking walks. I like to take long nature walks. And when I'm out and about, I just love to listen to His Word and really get into the Word. And obviously read my Bible and stay as close to Him as I can, because the world will try to pull you away. Yeah. And in so many different ways. And also taking breaks from social media. Holy moly, Kevin. Holy moly. Last 8 days ago, I broke away personally from Facebook. And you know that's a big thing for me, because I'm very socially connected with business and everything. I'm still on for the business page, but I broke away from my personal page. I cannot tell you how much better I feel. Just in 2 days. Yeah. What a difference. We really have to watch our inputs, visual inputs, auditory inputs, you know, everything that affects you. And one of them, a big one these days, is social media. And I know that it's important, but it's also very, very toxic. Yeah. And very addicting. Yeah. I mean, I was picking up my phone and not knowing it, I was hitting that Facebook icon. And I'm like, Lesley, what are you doing? Yeah. Turn that thing off. And I wasn't even, it was just almost, I don't know. Yeah. Just so addictive. And so it's been 8 days now. And not only that, but how much more you're able to get done in a day. Yep. How much time that stuff eats away from your life. is
really
incredible. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be back on sometime. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm a whole lot happier without it.
Well, we try to preach that here too, because it's, I pulled away from social media a few years ago, and it was that thing at first of like, I'm missing out.
Right. And you
it's-
want to be connected.
Yeah,
and you want to
yeah.
know what's going on.
Right. And then once you finally get it out of your system, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm if I want to know what's going on, I'm going to call somebody.
You know what? Though, years ago, and I'm just going to talk about Facebook because that's what most one is on. It used to be fun.
Yeah.
We used to watch each other's kids grow up,
Right.
and do all of that. And I just started scrolling through mine, and I'm like, this is just vicious now.
Yeah.
This isn't even nice.
Right.
You can't even post anything without anybody coming right back at you.
Yep.
And I just decided that I needed a break from that, and I needed to cleanse myself of all of it. It almost felt evil almost.
Yeah.
And gosh, what a difference. So I would advise anybody, if you feel that way, as you're going through Facebook, if it doesn't feel right in your heart, you need to break away. But that you're absolutely right. You feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah. But it
like
fades,
you're going to be
right?
left behind,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right. But that feeling fades, right? After a couple of days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After
Yep.
day 3,
You're like,
you're fine after that. And it's like it really feels like a weight is lifted off your shoulder. Because I was at the point where I felt like I needed to post something. Like I had to put some encouragement out there.
Right.
Like I was a light in the darkness, and I wanted to push that and push it and push it. And I just I had to take a break, and I feel so much better because of it.
Well, we are going to be praying for you.
Thank you.
And for your strength, and for you to continue listening to Jesus, because it's so obvious to me that he is talking directly to you, and you're saying, okay, got it. I'm yours. I'm going to do what you want me to do. And so we're going to keep praying for you to do that, and keep praying for your business to expand, and for you to be blessed in that way, and for ways that we can partner with you in your projects in the future. If someone's watching right now and they are like, hey, I want to get in on that. Whatever's going on there, I want to be a part of it. I want to help. What's a good way for them to plug in to what you're doing?
I would say you can always go. I know we were just talking about Facebook, but you can go to Facebook, our Lifetime Hearing Services page on Facebook. You can always reach me personally at my office. Our number is 843-662-4327. Okay. Those are probably the best ways to reach me personally, and leave me a message, and I'll get right back in touch with everybody. So.
And the Wednesday, the small business
Wonderful
Wednesdays, that's through the Lifetime Facebook?
Yeah, it's posted on there.
Okay.
Yep, and
Good.
it's also on Consider the Lilies.
Yeah.
That's Angela's florist, so I always post it back to her page as well. And it's amazing how much that has actually blessed Angela and I in return. We think that we're doing God's work and celebrating and lifting others up, but when you lift somebody else up, guess what? You get blessed more than that actual person does. And it truly has been a tremendous, tremendous blessing for the two of us to go through COVID and the pandemic with these businesses and lifting them up. So it's almost like when you do a random act of kindness.
Right.
It blesses the other person, but dang, it blesses you so much more.
Well, I think we should leave it right there. That's a beautiful thought to leave on, and that's exactly the spirit of this series. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Wow, we appreciate you.
You have always been such a fond friend for all of my charity work that I want to do, and giving back to the community, and attending the concerts and putting together little video snippets of the concerts is, a memory for me and for everybody to see. And I just really, really appreciate you, Kevin.
We're just getting started. You know what I'm saying? All right, well, thank you again for being part of this today.